He is now chair of the Athletics Integrity Unit, but is also former Director General of WADA. Ladies and gentlemen, it's a pleasure, David Howman.
Distinguished guests, friends and colleagues, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou katoa. I thought I would speak in Māori today. That is welcome to my speech. Thank you very much to the organisers of this significant conference. It's acknowledged globally by those in this field that the very issue of sport integrity in general requires careful attention and engagement, and this conference provides a very good opportunity to do that. Following the significant documentary that HIO produced in 2014, there was an exposure in the world of international athletics which was shocking, disturbing, and a real reputational crisis. That was validated by the commission that was established by WADA at the time, the Pound Commission, including Richard McLaren and Gunter Junge, who are both here, that showed that the president of the IAAF was corrupt, so was his general counsel, so was the head of the anti-doping department. All have been arrested by the French police. So what did the sport of athletics do? And I should say, as an aside, the New York Times article in May 2016, which provoked Richard McLaren to write his report, showed more crisis in the area of sport integrity, more crisis in terms of how a country was able to dope its athletes for success at a Winter Olympic Games. And you're going to hear more about that later from Richard. The IAAF, in response to this shocking revelation, did a number of things. First of all, it suspended the Russian Athletics Federation from membership within the international body. That was significant. Secondly, it appointed a task force chaired by a very clever international independent anti-doping expert, my good friend Rune Andersen, to advise it on the progress required of the Russian Federation to be readmitted as a member of the International Federation. But thirdly, and more importantly, the President of the IAAF immediately took steps to conduct a full root and branch review of its finances and operating systems, and established a working group to undertake a review of all the governance and integrity structures, rules and processes. Now, you've heard already that this is a problem. This has been done by the IAAF, and within 9 months, following extensive consultation and drafting, the reform recommended over 200 changes. It culminated in a new constitution, which incorporated major reform of its governance structures, including the establishment of the Athletics Integrity Unit, which is a standalone organisation responsible for investigating and prosecuting all integrity breaches. This concept was accepted unanimously by the full membership, and rules were written to give effect to the mandate. The remit of the AIU is as follows. The Code of Ethics now covers result manipulation. You've heard mention of match fixing. Age manipulation. We haven't heard mention of that yet today, but age manipulation is an issue in sports which conduct junior championships. Transfers of national allegiance. We've heard a lot over the years of athletes who change countries to attain more money to seek success. Bribery and corruption, illegal betting, and legal betting, which is wrong, extortion, anti-doping, and ethics requirements such as gifts, conflicts of interest, improper benefits, and so on. And in fact, all other rule breaches except for those that occur on the field of play. The membership accepted the fact that this trust in the sport was at a low, and not only did they need to address this with an independent body, there had to be no reality or perception of any interference with the operation and workings of the AIU. No control of the unit. The chair and the members of the voting board were appointed following a vetting process run by a newly created vetting panel made up of other independent experts to ensure that the people appointed were individuals of integrity, including ensuring there were no conflicts of interest. I was privileged to be appointed the chair. Now, I just mention that because that shows an answer to some of the issues that have already been raised today. And you might think it provides a pretty useful model for other international federations to follow. So what have we done? Well, first of all, we appointed a CEO who came on board last July, Brett Clothier from Australia, who formerly headed up the integrity unit for the Australian Football League. Now, the Australian Football League, you have to understand, is a game that nobody else plays. And I don't know how many of you understand Australians. We know them quite well. It's a bit like the relationship you have with Sweden, except I would say ours is worse because they were settled by convicts and we were settled by good guys. You might have other things to say about the Swedes, but I don't want to delve into that today. So we appointed Brett, and what we have done in the first 9 months of our operation, we have conducted a huge number of cases against Russian athletes, well into triple figures, a huge number. I think we may be the only international federation that has picked up some of the evidence that was gained from Richard McLaren. We have not only done that, we've conducted investigations outside of doping. And I want to emphasise this. We have a broad mandate. We've already investigated about 12 or 15 cases of bribery and corruption within the sport of athletics. And what have we found? Lo and surprise. The same bad guys who are pushing drugs to athletes are the bad guys who are trying to manipulate performances and corrupt officials. That is amazing. No, of course it's not. The criminal underworld are getting a grip on sport. And we have to wake up to that as soon as possible. I haven't heard mention of that yet today, but it's an area which I am intensely intrigued with. And over the last number of years, we have found probably up to 25% of world sport has a criminal underworld engagement. Now, I don't want to start criticising any individual sport. I just want to make one little comment. We've got a World Cup going on at the moment, and FIFA refer to themselves as the football family. Now, I'm old enough to remember what was termed a family in the 1960s and 70s. Didn't have any connotations with sport. And I think we want to just reflect on that just for a few moments to see why they are calling themselves the family. So athletics addressed the issues that came out of these reports. What did others do? You've heard already what the IOC did, and you probably know that the IPC did something different and banned the Russian Paralympic Committee from the Games in Rio and in Korea. I just want to quote a good friend of mine, Jens Andersen, who runs Play the Game in Denmark. And he said after the Winter Olympic Games in Korea, the following: "No matter how many illusions the Lords of the Rings can conjure, they will not overshadow the question of whether Olympic values are still real values." He went on, "One reality, though, will stand unparalleled long after the Olympics in South Korea ends. The battle against systemic, institutionalised, state-organised doping is over, and whoever fought it lost." Lost. That, to me, is shocking, and it's something that we need to reflect on when we consider the information that came out of the reports. Now, I'm just going to deviate because I'm very scared of Jan. He told me beforehand I was going to get the red card. I was going to be the person that was penalised, and you're bigger than me, so... I want to say a word for athletes. We require a lot of our athletes, and we sanction those who break the rules quickly. We have provisional suspensions, we expel them from events. But what do the athletes get from the officials? What they deserve is the same level of integrity as expected of them at a minimum. Really, it should be higher. The same level of scrutiny and investigation. The same, if not higher level, approach to provisional suspensions and discipline in general. Should not the process for corrupt officials be even more robust than that for athletes? And finally, athletes need to see an independent process for all integrity breaches. I suggest, and I've been saying this for some time, that sport needs a worldwide integrity body, including anti-corruption and anti-doping, not a body which is owned or controlled by sport, but one that is truly without conflict, funded out of the large media, broadcasting, sponsorship fees. But don't take it out of the current fees, add 0.5% on and give that to this integrity body. And governments also have a role to play. The Australian government has stepped up to the plate. They're seeking a report on the very issue in a broad sense. Even the Swiss government have passed a law on corruption that was not in place when the raid on FIFA occurred in 2015. And I understand there's a draft resolution, sir, before the European Parliament calling upon the EU to create an independent agency which would not govern sport itself but have the authority to review and supervise ethical issues and structures to guarantee that transnational sports organisations conform with good governance. So out of crisis is born opportunity. It's a great time now for sport to do the right thing and prove it deserves to retain its autonomy. It's time to make a difference. Thank you.